As the Secretary of Defense, you will be the one man standing in the breach should President Trump give an illegal order, right? I'm not saying he will, but if he does, you are going to be the guy that he calls to implement this order. Do you agree that there are some orders that can be given by the Commander-in-Chief that would violate the U.S. Constitution?
Yo, I don't know about you, but this is the reality TV that is probably most important. I would say it's right up there. Maybe you might not agree, right? But it's right up there with Jim Jones versus Cameron. These are the Senate confirmation hearings of Pete Hegseth. This dude has been nominated by Donald Trump as the Secretary of Defense for the United States of America. And I don't know about you, but this seems like the most important reality TV that we have. It's not on one of them networks that, make us, entertain us, but don't feed us educationally or whatever. But this is important reality TV. So basically, Donald Trump nominated a bunch of people to the Senate. I mean, all right, see. I tried to do the YouTube voice and it threw me off. No edits, no cuts, no blind reactions. This is all off the top, right? So scratch what I just said because I made a mistake. Donald Trump has nominated a bunch of people to his cabinet. Now, those are nominations. They still have to be confirmed. And then the Senate has to vote on these people. And that's what's happening right now. The Senate confirmation hearings are the opportunity for the Senate to basically speak to these people and have a job interview with them and basically he's fighting for these votes from these people. Now, all 100 senators are not able to ask questions, of course, but he will probably be asked questions by about 25, maybe 20 people. So, this is one of the people that was questioning him. That's why I started out like that. And she, you know what? I'm going to just press play.
Objection, it will be admitted to the record. And Senator Slotkin, welcome to the committee.
Thank
and you.
you.
Are recognized.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for referencing the great Carl Levin as you introduced me. We miss him in Michigan. For those who I haven't met in my 1 week that I've been sworn into the Senate, I'm a CIA officer recruited after 9/11. I did 3 tours armed in Iraq alongside the military. And have worked for 4 different secretaries of defense, both Democrat and Republican, proudly, and watched them make decisions that literally determine the life and death of Americans in the dark of night. I'm also a Democrat representing a state that Trump won, right? We both won on the same ballot. So I understand that President Trump has the right to nominate his people. We are going to have policies that we disagree with. All of that, to me, comes very standard.
All right. So she just set the stage, basically. When you're interviewing somebody, I don't know, you guys have been on an interview recently, or if you've interviewed people for positions, because some of you guys are at that level, right? But when you interview people or you are being interviewed, you usually like to set the tone for the interview, and you want the interview to be light. You don't want it to feel like you're pushing too much for the person not to get the job, right? In this case, the person that is trying to get the job, most people know he's not qualified. Most people know that all of the people that Donald Trump nominated are not qualified. So these people that are interviewing him, that are in the Senate, are asking questions to basically inform the public. That's why it's a reality TV show. And that's why you should view it as a reality TV show, because it's for you. These questions are being asked for you. And there was another point that I had on top of that escaped me just now, but we're just gonna keep going. Oh yes. I'm glad I caught it before I started the video, right? So a lot of the people that ask questions, so there's 100 senators, and about 20 to 25 people in that range are going to ask Pete Hegseth these questions, right? Now, most of them have military experience. So they're able to ask certain questions, like the last interview that we watched, and then this interview that we watched. She just said she was brought on after 9/11 and things like that. The last person that we watched actually got her legs blown off by a rocket-propelled grenade in 2004. So, like, all of these people have military experience, and they actually care probably more than the average person about the people in the military. So it's important for these people to be able to ask these questions. All right, so let's get into it.
What I think I'm most concerned with is that no president has the right to use the uniformed military in a way that violates the U.S. Constitution and further taints the military as that apolitical institution that we all want, right? And our founders designed the system so that, we had posse comitatus, that we weren't going to use active duty military inside the United States and make American citizens potentially scared of their own military. We went through our own experience with that with the British. As the Secretary of Defense, you will be the one man standing in the breach should President Trump give an illegal order, right?
I'm sorry, I had to stop it. I also, I do research. I don't do blind reactions. So I do research before and during these things that I'm watching. So something that she just brought up, she said posse comitatus. Now, if you listen to that and you're just like a person just viewing and trying to get into it, you'll skip that and basically it won't mean anything to you. It'll just be something that she said and you'll say, I don't know what she's talking about, but whatever. Why it's illegal. Posse comitatus is an act. The Posse Comitatus Act of 1876 prohibits the use of federal troops for domestic law enforcement except when authorized by Congress or the president invoking the Insurrection Act under specific conditions. So basically, you can't use military personnel against citizens, and she's about to address that right now. So I'm gonna actually run it back a little bit, and then we'll talk more.
I'm not saying American citizens, but so that, we had posse comitatus, that we weren't going to use active duty military inside the United States and make American citizens potentially scared of their own military. We went through our own experience with that with the British. As the Secretary of Defense, you will be the one man standing in the breach should President Trump give an illegal order. Right? I'm not saying he will, but if he does, you are going to be the guy that he calls to implement this order. Do you agree that there are some orders that can be given by the Commander-in-Chief that would violate the U.S. Constitution?
Here we go.
Senator, thank you for your service. But I reject the premise that President Trump is going to be giving illegal orders.
No, I'm not saying he will, but do you believe there is such a thing as an illegal order that Joe Biden or any other president, Donald Trump, could give? Is there anything that a commander-in-chief could ask you to do with the uniformed military that would be in violation of the U.S. Constitution?
Senator, anybody of any party
Right.
could give an order that is against the Constitution or against the law.
Right. Okay. So are you saying that you would stand in the breach
Answer the question.
and push back if you were given an illegal order?
I start by saying I reject the premise that President
I
Trump will
understand.
be giving
You've done your
any
genuflecting
illegal
to him.
orders.
All right. Also, I just need to, at every point, I need to make sure that y'all understand this. The audacity, right, for a person to be trying to get a job, right? It doesn't matter who refers you for the job. The audacity of you in the job interview to say, I don't know if the question that you're asking, if you mean it that way, but I'm not gonna answer it directly. I'm going to work my way around it. If you have to work your way around it, that means that you're I don't know. You tell me what that means.
But
At all.
this isn't a breach and push back if you were given an illegal order.
I start by saying I reject the premise that President
I
Trump will be
understand.
giving
You've done your
any
genuflecting
illegal
to him.
orders
But
at all.
this isn't a hypothetical, okay? Your predecessor in a Trump administration, Secretary Esper, was asked and did use uniformed military to clear unarmed protesters. He was given the order to potentially shoot at them. Helos flew low in Washington, D.C. as crowd control. He later apologized publicly for those actions. Was he right or wrong to apologize?
Senator, I was there on the ground.
And
I saw the
I understand,
helo
and I
myself.
respect that.
I've been there.
But you're
I
about
understand
to
the
be the
level of threat
Secretary of
that was
Defense.
involved in that moment. I
Was
also
he
Yo, all right. Also, they say a lot of stuff that you actually have to do the research to go into. That's what I do though. So, Esper that she mentioned was the Secretary of Defense in 2020, I believe. I'm looking for my notes, but Donald Trump asked for. All right, where is it? I don't see it, but I remember pretty much. So Esper was asked by Donald Trump to basically clear out the George Floyd protesters with the military, and yeah, that's an unlawful order. You can't use the military against unarmed citizens, civilians, and just think that that's okay and think that it's gonna be okay. So that's a concern. It's a major concern, and that's what she's bringing up right now. Basically, talking about Esper. When she says Esper and the protesters, she doesn't say the George Floyd protesters, but I know my audience specifically will understand that the George Floyd protesters were not just outside for no reason. They were outside because an unarmed black man was killed for no reason. So,
right to
let's go back.
apologized publicly? Oh,
And he apologized.
He did use uniformed military to clear unarmed protesters. He was given the order to potentially shoot at them. Helos flew low in Washington, D.C. as crowd control. He later apologized publicly for those actions. Was he right or wrong to apologize?
Senator, I was there on the ground.
And
I saw the
I understand, and I
Right or
respect
wrong
that.
I've been there.
But
I
you're about
understand
to
the
be
level
the
of threat
Secretary of Defense.
that was involved in that moment. I
Was
also
he right
understand
to? So he was
legality and the
Sir,
Constitution.
was he
and
right
the
or
laws of what
wrong
you
to
have.
apologize?
I'm not going to put words in the mouth of Secretary Esper or
No,
anybody else. from
he
this
said them
podium.
himself. You don't have to. What are you scared of? Did he do the right thing by apologizing?
I'm not scared of anything, Senator.
Then say
I'm
yes or no.
interested
You
in
can say
upholding
no.
the laws and the
Yes or no.
Constitution
Okay.
in any
So
particular
Donald
scenario.
Trump asked for the active duty 82nd.
So, was he right or wrong to apologize? That's like a perfectly worded question. Like, he made a mistake. He turned the military against civilians, and he realized that he was wrong. Was he right or wrong to apologize? I think he was right. I think he was wrong. And you could really justify either side. Like, yo, those protests and the riots, whatever, got intense. Some people were protesting, some people were rioting. So if the president thought that it made sense for the military to go in, and he said, because Donald Trump doesn't really understand what he's doing, he said, yo, maybe we can get the military to stop them. And then he made the order. It was an unlawful order, but the Secretary of Defense followed the order. Then, in the heat of whatever's going on, you might think that you're doing the right thing. I understand that. We could understand that. But in retrospect, was it the right thing to do? No. So he apologized for doing the wrong thing, for following an unlawful order that Donald Trump gave. Now, what she's asking is, do you think he was right for apologizing? Now, I don't know this because I didn't even think about this to do the research for it, but Donald Trump probably blasted him for apologizing. And he probably knows that. So he's probably like, I can't say that he was right for apologizing because Donald Trump won't like that. And I'm afraid of Donald Trump because, like, most people are at this point. Donald Trump does whatever he wants, and he gets groups of people to ride on his enemies. So I understand people sucking up to him, pause, but like, was it right or wrong? Like, you're trying to, and that's the problem. There's no allegiance to the country. It's more allegiance to Donald Trump. Like, these things are law for a reason. But we're gonna keep on going.
Airborne to be deployed during that same. Then say
I'm
yes or no. You
interested in
can say
upholding
no.
the laws and the Constitution
Okay.
in any
So
particular
Donald
scenario.
Trump asked for the active duty 82nd Airborne to be deployed during that same time. Secretary Esper has written that he convinced him against that decision. If Donald Trump asked you to use the 82nd Airborne in law enforcement roles in Washington, D.C., would you also convince him otherwise?
I'm not going to get ahead of conversations I would have with the president. However, there are laws and processes inside our Constitution that would be followed.
President Trump said in November that he is willing to consider using the active duty military against the, quote, enemy within. Have you been personally involved in discussions of using the U.S. military active duty inside the United States?
Senator, I'm glad we finally got to the topic of border security equaling national security because it's been abdicated and ignored for the last 4 years.
That wasn't my question. I'm just asking, have you been involved? You're about to be the Secretary of Defense, potentially. Have you been involved in discussions about using the active duty military inside the United States?
Senator, I am not yet the Secretary of Defense.
Right. I'm
If
just
confirmed, I would be party to any number of
So you
conversations.
haven't been in any of these
which
conversations?
I would not reveal what I have discussed with the President of the United States.
Just have you been in conversations? You're going to be in charge of 3 million people, the active duty that I know you care about. I believe you care about. So have you been in conversations about using the active duty in any way? Whether it's setting up in detention camps, policing dangerous cities, have you been involved in any of those conversations?
Certainly, I have been involved in conversations relating to doing things this administration has not, which is secure the southern border and not allow floods of illegals to enter our country through an invasion that threatens the American people.
Okay,
And there are
I got
ways.
it.
Now, I'm not one to say there's not a problem at the southern border or there wasn't a problem at the southern border. But that's not the question. So why are you bringing this up? Like, why are you changing? And why are you allowed to change the meaning of the question? That's disingenuous at the least.
Ways in which the military is already playing a role in that, to include 5,000 National Guardsmen from Indiana and Texas. We're at the border right now, allowing for border security.
Will you
So there is
ask the
plenty of
active
precedent
duty
for
military to
members
staff
enforcing
detention
our southern
centers?
border.
Our U.S. military is not trained in law enforcement roles. I think you know that, right? We've seen how that mission is difficult for them in places like Iraq and Afghanistan because that's not the training a uniformed military comes with. Do you support the use of active duty military in supporting detention camps?
Senator, everything we will do would be lawful and under the Constitution,
Okay,
but
I'm
I
gonna take that as a
recognize
yes.
that this administration has abdicated its responsibility. President Trump is going to restore
in the
order at the
spirit
border,
of preserving
prevent our
the
enemies from
institution
invading,
in-
and yes, he has said
Sir,
mass
I get your
deportations will
filibustering.
be
I get it.
a part of what
In
happens.
the spirit of preserving the institution that I think we both care about, legitimately, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. I've heard a couple of different things. One, you said you will not change the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is what governs justice system in the military. Yes or no? You said that earlier.
Those are
I'm just
laws,
confirming.
Senator, set by Congress.
Okay, so you will not go to change it. You will not attempt to change it.
didn't answer the
You
question.
also said that
Don't give
JAG
him the
officers
answer.
are potentially people who put their own interests in their own medals and promotions ahead of the troops. Senator Lindsey Graham was a JAG officer for most of his life. Is that what you believe about those who implement our justice system in the U.S. military?
Senator, I was speaking about particular JAG officers I've had to deal with in my military
Are you gonna
experience,
get
not about a
involved?
member of the United States Senate.
Are you, as Secretary of Defense, going to get involved in the implementation of the U.S. Military Code of Justice?
Senator, ultimately, it will be a big part of my job to evaluate decisions vis-a-vis
Okay,
the
so I'll take
Uniform
that.
Code of
I'll
Military
take that as
Justice.
yes. Have you seen
it fairly.
is CQ Brown on your list in the Warrior boards to be removed from his position?
Senator, every single senior officer will be reviewed based on meritocracy, standards, lethality, and commitment to lawful orders they will be given.
Thank you, Senator Slotkin. I now recognize Senator Shaheen for a unanimous consent.
Yo, I don't think she asked enough questions. And I don't think she slowed him down enough. I don't think she stopped him enough. And I don't know if she's not going to vote for him. I don't know. I really don't know. We'll see.